Hello, welcome. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. We are going to be talking about 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. And I am Marnie Ginsberg, and I'm so excited that you are here. Let me know if you can find the chat and tell me where you're from. I'm so excited and welcome everyone here. Go ahead and find the chat and let me know where you're from. I will pop in myself and say where I'm from. I'm Marnie Ginsberg. You're in the right place for 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. I'm going to type my, oh, Mary, you're the first one in Green Bay. I am just down the road in Madison, Wisconsin. Oh, welcome everyone. I'm so excited for tonight. It's going to be a great night. We've got a lot of folks registered, and I hope that we can get to all of your questions. This is going to be the best of the content from Reading Simplified, where we streamline classroom reading instruction or any reading instruction and accelerate students' reading achievement. So if you're just popping in, say hey and look at who's saying hi, and say hi as well and let us know where you're from. And I'd love to know what you teach, okay? Maybe you're a homeschooling parent. Many of you are classroom teachers. I'd love to know what you teach and where you're from. Welcome, Chris from Temecula, and Wanda Lee and Sheila in Utah, Mary, Carol, hey Carol from Akron, Ohio, Karen from Michigan, Esther from Florida, Wanda Lee, Charlene, Jackie, Susan, Madeline. I recognize a lot of your names from the last week. Chris, Wanda Lee, Lorraine, Jackie. Oh, Lorraine's just down the road in Lake Geneva. Okay, we got a Wisconsin contingent today. Kayla, Chris, Kate, first grade teacher in North Carolina. I did a lot of my teaching in North Carolina, Kate. Sheila, a kindergarten teacher. Karen teaches first. Mia is originally from China. Oh, wonderful. And you're in Los Angeles now. Welcome. Jean from North Carolina teaches first grade. Bethany from Indiana. Hey, special ed and resource room. Great. We've got a lot of folks like that, Bethany, who connect with Reading Simplified. Liz from Florida. Lene, first grade in Irvington. Deva from Missouri. Awesome. We're glad you're here. Sharon and Marcia from Massachusetts. A lot of first grade teachers so far. Welcome, you guys. If you're just coming in, you're in the right place for 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. We're going to start in just about 2 minutes, but I want to know where you're from and what you teach. I'm in Madison right now, and I teach teachers and also work with students privately. Maria is in Texas, and Layla, Carol, intervention specialist. Welcome. Carolyn from North Carolina. Kayla is a substitute teacher, but eager to get her first full-time teaching position. Awesome, Kayla. Yeah, my first time position was a long-term sub for a whole year. Sometimes in some places it's hard to get a job, isn't it? Joanne from Albuquerque. That's a beautiful place. I got to go out there and work with some teachers several years back. Michelle in Ontario, Canada. Oh, are you the first one from Canada that I've noticed? Juanita, another Canadian. Welcome, you guys. Amy, Michigan, first grade teacher. Christy, Megan, Mary, Lisa. Mary says video restricted. So Kayla is helping our Reading Simplified team. Maybe she can help you out there, Mary. Corey, kindergarten teacher. Joanne is first grade. Mary's kindergarten. Wow, you guys, I'm so excited that you're here. And if you're just coming in, let us know wherever the chat is on your screen. Let us know where you're from and what you teach. You can be a classroom teacher. You could be a parent. We've got a lot of grandparents. We've got tutors. We've got a lot of different folks coming from all over the world who are interested in this topic tonight. And I'm so glad that you are, because it's going to be very powerful. And we're going to start just in a few seconds. Oh, and we got another Marnie. How cool. Welcome from San Antonio. I grew up in Bishop, right down the road from Kingsville, Marnie. Lorraine is a geologist. Ooh, that's a cool job. Right. And Deidre. Oh my gosh, we've got so many. I can't even welcome everybody. But if I have missed your name, we're really thrilled that you're here. I'm Dr. Marnie Ginsberg, and activities. And there we go. What a bold claim, right? 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. And I know it may seem crazy and over the top, but in actuality, it really is a possibility. These 3 activities form up to about 80% of what I use and teachers I coach have been using for beginning or struggling readers or striving readers, whichever term you prefer, from of multiple ages, all the way up to high school. And so they're super powerful for getting kids quick access into the code and making them successful readers. So I'm excited to share these tonight. This is really the best of my career as a teacher, tutor, university researcher, staff development person, and now Reading Simplified creator. But I wasn't always this excited about how to teach reading. Many of you may relate to where I was. About 20 years ago, I was a middle school language arts teacher, and my kids on average were reading at the 4th grade level. On average, 6th grade kids, 4th grade reading level. And I was panicking because I didn't know how to help them. I could listen to them read, and I knew that they had trouble with recognizing unknown words, but I didn't really know what to do. I had a master's. I'd taken reading classes, but I didn't know what to do. And I went into teaching to be helpful. And this was like the most important thing for them to be able to access the words. I just felt very incompetent, really, and nervous and frustrated. Like, well, I hadn't really been prepared, and I was scrambling. So I scrambled for a good long while. My second year in that second teaching position I had, where the kids were struggling, I got really desperate when I had 2 inclusion kids who were 1st grade level readers. In fact, they weren't even 1st grade level readers. They could basically not read at all. I'm sorry to hear about the streaming problems. A lot of times refreshing can be the trick for streaming problems. Refreshing the page, the website. So I was there. I was frustrated. And so I started looking. I looked high and low. I looked on the fledgling internet at the time, and I looked in the university libraries that were nearby, the city libraries. I looked in the bookstores. I was just not finding an answer. I tried a couple different things, but I was getting a lot of mixed signals. How many of you have seen that, where you hear one thing from one expert or one book, and then you hear something almost it seems diametrically opposed from another book or expert? And even more frustrating, a lot of what was being presented to me would have taken these kids 2 or 3 or 4 years to catch up. They were in 6th grade, particularly the ones I was most concerned about, those 1st grade level readers. They didn't have time for 3 years to catch up. They needed to catch up now, right? They were super frustrated. So finally, I found something that made a difference. I worked with the 2 kids kind of in the morning after school, as catch can. Finally got trained on it in the spring, and it was so powerful that that set me on the trajectory to be here with you today. Yes, Chris says she agrees that she's seen that kind of confusing messaging that we get. So I got really excited about the fact that these children didn't move. The one of them in particular that I got to work with more, he moved up to the 3rd grade reading level, which was awesome because he hadn't really budged since starting reading instruction, but he was still far behind. So I still wanted to learn more. I tutored. I went to the University of North Carolina. I got my doctorate there. While I was there, I created intervention studies an intervention program rather, that was studied in multiple states across the US, and thousands of students and hundreds of teachers implemented the activities that I had learned about from research and my own practice, and we got strong results. And I've been continuing this process of over these years of figuring out what is the best way to teach reading as fast as we can, and how do we solve the problem of slow beginning readers or those who are striving and are just not, they need to catch up, and they need to catch up fast. So that's what I'm all about here at Reading Simplified. Okay, so we're getting a few technical difficulties. How many of you are having are getting the video and the sound fine? I would love to hear it from you guys. Let us know if some of it you are getting. Now we have a large audience, so of course some of us are not going to have the greatest connection for maybe a little bit. Let's see. Let me hear from you. So that was my story getting started over, in the 90s. And then over the years, oh, great. Thank you for letting me know it's working. And then I developed Reading Simplified. And the core of Reading Simplified is, like the name, an approach to streamline instruction and to kind of clear away the clutter, because there's so much that is confusing about reading instruction and we're pummeled with it, frankly. And so the 3 activities that I'm going to share with you tonight really are the best of all of Reading Simplified. So, yeah, I'm excited. Buckle up. We're going to really cover a lot. So why is this so needed? It kind of alluded to it. A lot of teaching is overwhelming. And I think particularly reading instruction is overwhelming. Why is that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. We get so many standards. There's so many scope and sequences we have to follow, and state standards, district school standards, basal guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. For instance, this is the Common Core state standards here in the US. Some of our states use this. It's a long list. You can't read it all. Just for kindergarten literacy, never mind math, and never mind all the other things you have to teach. And of course, that has nothing to do with what your reading series will tell you, because they may not connect. It can be a lot. And then you have so many things in literacy, right? We've got phonics, phonemic awareness, sight words, handwriting, writing process, comprehension strategies, vocabulary development, etc., etc. For instance, here is just a phonics scope and sequence. Not just all of literacy, but just phonics. It goes from 1 to 80, and that's not all. It goes all the way to 183, and even to the next page to 250. Just for first grade, you're supposed to teach that many different minuscule items for first grade. And of course, that's not all of literacy, is it? How can you manage all of that information, particularly when you are talking about kids who are varying levels of need? It's just a lot to differentiate by all these curriculum or curricular expectations. And then there's that thing about social media where we see the best of other people's, for instance, like Pinterest. We might go there to get great ideas, but at the same time, it may make us feel inadequate if we compare our mediocre days with someone else's best days. And so Pinterest overwhelm is another real thing. Sometimes I might feel like, well, my lesson was good, but oh, well, that one looks better. How many of you have experienced that? Do you love or do you hate, or are you kind of middling about Pinterest? I would love to hear from you guys about Pinterest. These are some of the things that makes teaching literacy really too hard for us, I believe. And then the other problem with literacy instruction, particularly for beginners or for anyone who's striving or struggling, the instruction we're suggested to give is often isolated. So you do phonics, you do phonemic awareness, you do handwriting, you do high frequency sight words. All of these things are separated elements, and rarely do they get integrated, or maybe they get integrated, but only for a fraction of your day. You guys are saying, yes, Pinterest is overwhelming. You love it, but it can get intimidating. Bethany says, yes. Amy says, a love-hate relationship. Hi, Jay. Yep, understandable, you guys. So this isolation is very real. Let me show you some examples. This is from a famous reading series where they recommend, if you have students with phonemic awareness difficulties, they say, pull them aside and give them this intervention every day for 15 minutes. And it's not until lesson 106, in other words, the 106th day of first grade, that those kids getting the phonemic awareness instruction will actually see letters in that setting and connect sounds and letters. So that's an example of isolation. And that means that as a teacher, you've got a lot to cover if you're supposed to make sure they master phonemic awareness by itself and make sure they master phonics by itself, and all those different components, get them mastery, and you've got so many different levels. That's a lot. The same is true with the same program's phonics instruction. It's not until lesson 40 or thereafter that they take something like phonics letter sound instruction in isolation, not really emphasizing phonemic awareness, and hardly ever seeing real words. Like this would be 15 minutes there, only one word is seen, maybe one word is written. In 15 minutes, one word is not going to move the needle, is it? So these are some of the issues that are very common with all of the curriculum that we see. So I think that there has to be a better way. Not so much overwhelm and less isolation, and a clearer path. How many of you are with me? Would you like to find a better way. And I'm going to be showing that to you tonight. Let me know. So what I want to suggest to you is the Reading Simplified paradigm, really, which is instead of doing everything in isolation, do just a handful of activities, and each of those activities can simultaneously integrate multiple sub-processes at once. What do I mean by that? So instead of oral only phonemic awareness and letter sounds in isolation, what if we combine that in the context of real words? So phonemic awareness from the beginning and phonics letter sound instruction from the beginning in the context of real words. Not only will we pretty obviously save time, but it'll make more sense to our kids. So you guys are interested in hearing this streamlined way. Great. Carolyn and Lupe. Amy says, yes, she struggles with teaching reading. It's so common to hear that. I'm sorry. So what can you gain when you integrate multiple sub-processes simultaneously? Number one, there's a lot of best things. This is one of the best. You will save instructional and planning time. So if you know there's only a few activities that will work, you don't have to go scrounging through Pinterest late at night to find the next activity. You have a couple of go-tos, and you'll see that today, I believe. You'll have a couple of go-tos that are in your back pocket that you always pull out. So it's saving you in planning time. But then it's also going to save a huge amount of time instructionally, because the kids will make more connections when everything is connected for them. The distal or the isolated components of our reading curricula are confusing. And who are they the most confusing for? Those kids with the least amount of literacy background, those kids with some cognitive weaknesses that impair their ability to learn reading quickly. And so we don't have time to waste with those, right? So that's why it would be really great if you could rely on these handful of activities that would accelerate students' reading achievement as well. Kind of a 2-for-1, right? Are you with me there? Okay, so another nice thing about this, when you have just a few activities that pack a punch, that do a lot of the things that you need to do in early reading instruction, or for anyone who's behind, is that you can plan your guided reading more easily. Doesn't that sound good? It's a much clearer path that we provided here in Reading Simplified, and it's also just a couple activities that work over and over again. One activity I'm about to show you, Switch It. It works with kids who are here, and it works with kids who are there, but you just change the levels. So that is really an important part of why I think tonight is a very powerful teaching session for you. So instead of more standards, more scope and sequences, guidelines, objectives, I think we need a streamlined system. Who likes streamlined? Go ahead and type streamlined if you think that would be easier than all the stuff that is weighing you down, all of the scope and sequences, all the basal guidelines. So that's what 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away is all about. So what's going to happen tonight? I am going to share with you these 3 activities, and while I'm teaching you the activities, I'm also going to show you videos of the students doing these activities. So hopefully that'll be really helpful in getting you to see how it would play out. And then afterwards, I'm going to offer you the opportunity to learn more from us and become a member of the Reading Simplified Academy. But either way, you'll get, like I said, the best of the best tonight in the next hour. And after I present that Reading Simplified Academy offer, then you get some freebies. And in fact, it says 2, but I really mean 3. And so we get the 3 freebies, including the certificate of participation if you are here tonight. And then at the end of all of that, I will stay and ask and answer any questions. I'd love to hear from you. So you guys are all on with Streamlined. Absolutely, Karen and Sherry and Angela. So let's get into it. These are the 3 activities: Switch It, Read It, and Sort It. Okay, we're going to spend the most time talking about Switch It. Those 3 activities are the word work component. So that's a great part of your word study or word work component of a guided reading session. They are not the entire world of reading instruction, don't get me wrong, but they're the part that kind of sets Reading Simplified apart and is more efficient. So a good guided reading session would include these 3 activities: Switch It, Read It, and Sort It, but also guided reading and rereading. So those parts are kind of assumed that you'll be doing in every day with your small groups, or if you're working with just one student in that one-on-one situation. But we're not going to show those tonight because we just don't have time. So let's dive into Switch It. Okay? So before we talk about Switch It, I want you to have this mindset about how levels of words are phonemically. In other words, certain words are easier phonemically than other words. And phonemically meaning your perception of the sounds in words. For instance, the word mop is a CVC word with 3 sounds, and I can perceive those sounds, p. I can do that more easily than stomp, which is a st, p, 5 sound word, a C, C, V, C, C word. So that stair step there on the screen is the progression of easiest phonemically to more challenging, all the way up to multi-syllable words. All right. So another little thing to keep in mind before we get into Switch It is this is not your father's Oldsmobile. That's an old-fashioned commercial, and the point that they were making was, oh, we're jazzing up Oldsmobile. It's not a fuddy-duddy car like your daddy drove, and that's their point that they were trying to make. And so I kind of want to play off of that here. You're going to see kids move letter sounds, and so there's probably people in this workshop that hasn't had kids move letter sounds, right? So what is different about this one? A lot of times with when we make words in classrooms, the teacher is doing the work. So the kids have out the word mop, and then she says, okay, class, take out the M and put in an H. Now what word do you have? So she did the mental flexible task of moving those sounds in and out. Now the kids have to read. So it's a good activity. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's not a good activity. But what we're going to do with Switch It is have the kids do the mentally taxing work of switching mop to hop. They have to think, what is different between mop and hop? They have to pull off, they have to realize what's different. They have to realize they need to pull off the They have to realize a new sound is needed, that's ha. And then they have to go find which one of these symbols up here is ha. So all those steps are hard for anyone who is not good at reading, because that is really one of the hallmarks of being a good reader, is having quick phonemic processing or quick sound-based perception of our words. So let's pop in for an example of Switch It. Are you ready? So as you watch this example, I'd like for you to look for a couple of things. I remember at the beginning, I promised that these activities integrate multiple sub-processes simultaneously. So please, in the chat, write what reading skills you see that they're practicing or getting reinforced. Just write them all out. Let's see what kind of list we can come up with, because hopefully you'll see that there's a lot happening, even though it's just one activity that we can use over and over again. Are you with me? Okay, Beth, yeah, that's right. Switch it, read it, and sort it. Thanks for writing that down. Okay. These are my eyelashes. Do you guys have eyelashes? But we're just going to build the word lash. There, you got lashes. Can you say the word lash and then pull each sound down and say it? Oh. Very nice. Let me hear the sounds. And the word is? Bingo. Okay, let's switch lash to lush. When something is lush, it is full. Like a lush garden is a full garden with lots of flowers. So switch it from lash to lush. What sound is it? Very good. Okay, let's check the sounds. And the word is? Lush. Did you hear those sounds? Let me hear them. Nice. Okay. How about, are you ready to make flush? Don't forget to flush the toilet, okay? Flush, we're going to have to add something to make lush into flush. Hear the sounds? And the word is lush. Okay, let's do the sounds together, everybody. Awesome. Flash. If you have a picture and in the dark and you want to make some light, you may turn on the flash on the camera. Okay? So you've got flush.
Switch it to flash. Flash. So close. You got falsh. So close. You need, listen to what you need. Look at me and look at here. Yeah, you fixed it. Check the sounds. Very close. Ash. Okay, let's go back and check it again. And the word is? Let's switch it to flesh. Our flesh is like our body. This is my flesh. Okay? Flesh. Switch from flash to flesh. So close. Almost everybody's got it. You actually made flish. And we want flesh. Oh, good fix. Tell me the sounds.
Flesh.
Yep, each by himself. And the word is flesh. Okay, you want to cover them up? That's good. Let's cover the next one, okay? You've got flesh. Switch it to fled. I fled away from the danger. Fled. Fled. And cover. Fled. You're so close there. You got flesh. Switch it to fled. We need the eh to make fled. Oh, good switch. Nicely done. Okay, everybody together, tell me the sounds. Oh my gosh, everybody said flesh, but look at what word you have. What word is that? Fled. Switch it from fled to sled. We get to sometimes use a sled, don't we? Okay, tell me the sounds all together. And the word sled. Okay, last one. Sped. I sped and the policeman gave me a ticket. But not everybody has sped. Cover up what you got. Let's see if you've got sped. Let's check it. What do you have? Wait, let's let him figure it out. He'll get it. He'll get it. Now you have listed. Let's go back. You had sled, and we want said. All over it. You got it. Nicely done. Give me 5. All right. What are the sounds? Everybody do it together? And the word is? Now you know what we get to do? Gather up all your squares. Put them in here for me, please.
Put them in here for me, please. You did nice. All right. You guys came up with a nice collection of things. I'm sorry for those who are having technical troubles. You can make sure that all of your internet is not being funneled away to other people in your family or other apps. That's one thing to consider. I'm sorry, Denise, this will be on the replay, but let's talk about what you guys captured. You said Minta blends or blending and manipulations of sounds, isolating the sounds, letter sound recognition, Beth substitution, Beth also phoneme blending a little bit, Cindy vocabulary, yep. And Heather says phoneme additions, letter sound correspondence, manipulating the sounds, auditory sequencing. That's right. And Corey asks, what skills do they have to have mastered before this? Well, that's what's so exciting about this. And that's why how we save a lot of time is you can get right into this if your kids know about 5 or 7 letter sounds. They don't have to know a lot because they learn them in the context of this activity. And they may not be able to segment, but you can coach them through how to do that in the context of this activity. And so you're going to see that, in fact, coming up. Because let me show you what's possible, why I'm so excited about this one simple activity. Not only is it that it does a ton of things simultaneously, but it just makes a lot better connection for kids much more quickly. So let me show you what I mean by that. Here's an example of a boy that I got to work with last school year. He was a kindergartner, and it was in November of his kindergarten year. His teacher had already flagged him as being concerned about him and suggested he get extra help. His mom and dad were particularly concerned because his mom was dyslexic. And at the end of November, this kindergarten boy knew 7 letter sounds, no short vowels. He could not segment 3-sound words. In other words, a word like hop, he couldn't say ha, ah, p. And he certainly, of course, couldn't manipulate 3-sound words. He couldn't change hop into mop. And that, 20 years ago, that would have been fine. But for now, in kindergarten in the US, we put so much pressure on literacy, which I'm sure you guys can agree with, that he was behind. And so what I did was a 5-day challenge about the activity Switch It. I just did one activity with him, and I was live with teachers and parents like yourself every night to show how he was doing that activity and to encourage teachers to try it as well. So what you're going to see with this little guy is how far he went in 5 days with just one activity. Didn't do anything else. So on the pre-test there on the far left, he knew those 7 letter sounds, but he could not segment a CVC word. Then on Monday, we worked at the CVC level, 3 sounds, and we added in new letter sounds. So as we're doing the activity, I just add more and he learns them in the context of this activity. And across the bottom, you see how he progressed phonemically. He wasn't able to do 3-sound words. Then he kind of was able to do it. Then he went to 4-sound words and 5-sound words by the end of the week, segmenting and manipulating. And then he also increased the number of letter sounds he knew. By the end, he knew 17. So 5 days, 1 activity, 10 letter sounds growth. So Beth says, will this work for whole class, or it is recommended for small group because you can get a better match to the kids' needs. Like some kids would be working at CVC and they would be best there. Another group would be best at the CCVCC level, but it can also work in a whole group. We have a progression, Carol, of what letters to do. They're basically in order of frequency. So we start with high frequency words and more or less, and that's how we do it. So let's watch this little boy across the 5 days, little snippets of each day, and you can see him progressing in letter sound knowledge, in phonemic segmenting and phonemic manipulating, and also in some confidence. All right, let me pull this up, see if I can get it. Okay, you may need to put the volume up. The first word that I'm going to ask you to build is the word Sam, like a guy's name. What do you hear right here when I say Sam? That's right, that's the letter name, but what sound comes out of my mouth? That's right, which one of these is You got it. Okay, pull it down and say S. And again, because of Facebook, this looks backwards to you guys, but it's left to right as it should be for him. Now let's focus on what's the next sound that you hear in Sam. M. You're so right. There is a that's coming over here. But I'm looking for this sound. I want you to listen really. Oh. I don't want you to think about what letter it is. First of all, I just want you to pay attention to my voice and your voice. What do you hear right here when I say Sam? What was coming out of my mouth right there?
B.
Sam.
N.
Sam. What comes out right there? Sam.
N.
Well, there is a you know what? Which one of these is That's ah. This is Let's put that one down there. So you got the but what sound do we hear right here when I say Sam? You got it. You heard it. That's ah. So you have map, and we need mat. Oh, I like how you stay there, ah. Okay, so you got rid of the pup in map, but we're using mat. Oh, you're hearing it. Very nice. Which one is t? Very good. You know what to do next? And the word is?
Mat.
Wow. You got soft,
We need to switch it to sift. You have soft. Switch it to sift. Get rid of the ah, that's right. What sound goes here to make sift? Which is it? It. Just say it. Sift. If you sift something, you separate it. Okay, let's check the sounds in sift. You have plot.
No.
Yep. Okay, plod.
Where's D? Is there any D on here?
Yes.
There we go.
And what sound is it at the end of plod? Check the sounds, and you got maybe one more. No, we're doing the word plod. Plod. Duh. That's a good pick. And let's check the sounds in stump. And the word is?
Stump.
Can you take away two things? Two things we're going to do to change stump to stun. Stun. Oh, that is so good. He got both of them. I didn't know if that was possible. We need to make stun. What's which one is That's O. You nailed it. Okay, I'm stunned that you did it. Okay, check the sounds in stun. It's hard thinking about that, isn't it? Stun. And the last sound? Stun. Very nice.
All right, what do you think? Would you like to save some instructional time that way and have your kids move along, learning the letter sounds and making that many leaps ahead in phonemic segmenting and manipulation? Isn't that pretty awesome? This was a special opportunity for me to work with him just 5 days in a row with just one activity, but it's not uncommon. It isn't a unique experience for me or for other teachers when they use this activity. It's that powerful. And it's super helpful for beginners and struggling kids. Even maybe, I'll show you later, a 15-year-old just can't really perceive the sounds and words, so they need to do something pretty similar, but with harder words to be able to see how sounds and symbols connect. And Linda says, amazing. And Chris says, yes. So, and Heather asked me that at the end. We can talk about that. Kayla says, that's awesome. Welcome, Lalina. So what do other people say about it? You don't just have to take my word for it. So this is in our Teachers Lounge, like our discussion board in the Reading Simplified Academy, a membership where we show you how to use these activities in more depth and give you the resources to do it. And so this teacher was just reporting on her experience with Switch It. She wrote, I worked with a first grade boy with Switch It for the first time on Friday. He had some challenges with the beginning of the CVC list. 3 sounds. He was able to fix things when I followed procedures and gave the suggested feedback. Yeah, the feedback for Switch It is essential. He reported to his classroom teacher that he had learned how to spell. That was his understanding of what we did, and demonstrated by spelling the word math. I was unable to be in his building until dismissal time today, but when he saw me, he got out of line and would have followed me to the room to play Switch It. Isn't that awesome? When they're happy and they think it's a game, that often happens with Switch It. Gwen, yeah, you've done this with chips, but never with the letters. I think it'll be so much more powerful for you when you integrate it with the letter sounds. A lot of time savings too, plus it'll be ahas for the kids. So if you have some other questions about Switch It, put them in the chat and I will try to get to them later on. Minta uses it for RTI and says it's very effective. Awesome. So that was switch it, but that is essential for building sound symbol processing and building letter sound knowledge. But the kids aren't actually reading the words, right? Because I said, well, you have flesh. Now switch it to fled. So I gave them the word. So what do they do when they have trouble with blending? Do you guys see blending problems? If you've ever worked with beginners or anyone who's a struggling reader, or anyone who has dyslexia or has an identified learning disability, I am sure you have seen blending challenges. So I would love to hear what you have to say. And about Switch It, Sherry said her first graders love this. Oh, she says they will love it. I'm glad. Yes, it's so helpful because they're intrinsically motivated. Lisa says yes. So what are your blending problems? I'd love to know what kinds of blending problems that you hear. Natalie says kids blend backwards. Yes, I do have a hint for that. So classic. The last thing they say is the first thing that comes out, right? Like they read, which should be hop, and they say pot because the last thing they said was what they have in their mind. Yes, I'm not sure how you say your name, but yeah, kindergarten life, Aurelis. It's classic. Kids sound out the letters, cannot connect them to make the word. Exactly. So there are two very classic approaches that we're encouraged to teach when we have blending issues. And I'm going to suggest that these are not as efficient as what I'm going to recommend to you later. So these two classic approaches are represented by two videos. So there's a Sesame Street video out there that's old, but I saw this when I was a kid. And the one little Muppet is teaching the other Muppet. You put the letters together. You put them all together, and you sound it out, and that's what reading's all about, he says. And what he's doing is just and he gets faster and faster, and then suddenly he says, man. How many of you have tried that with your kids? You try to get them to go faster and put it together, and they just look at you, and they don't come up with man. I call this the sound word approach. And by the way, it works for a lot of kids. It probably works for most kids, but it doesn't work for all kids. So if you want something that works for all kids, hang on, because that's what I'm going to get to in a second. So you guys are really feeling the issue about blending problems. Amy's got some solutions there. That's neat, but you're definitely seeing some quirky things, and I need to keep moving. So the sound word method is not the most efficient. The other inefficient approach is the onset rhyme. So you ask them to read the wa, and then you ask them to read the et, and they put it together. Wa, et, wet. Again, does it work? It works for a lot of kids. There's research behind both of these because it works for a lot of kids, but it doesn't work for everyone, and you don't know which approach will work for whom when you get started. But I recommend something that's just a little different, and it's super easy. And what we're going to do is we're going to call it blend as you read. And we teach that strategy, that decoding strategy of blend as you read. Instead of the sound word approach or the onset rhyme approach, we teach that in the activity of read it, okay? So I'm going to show you a video of a kindergarten boy who had classic blending problems, had classic phonemic processing problems. He also had speech difficulties. So those often do coincide, don't they? I'm sure you've seen that. And so he was making some progress, however, and you can see it in this video. He's blending a more complex word, phonemically speaking. Notice how he blends it. He's not going to do something like this for swim. He's not going to go s, w, I, miss. So what? That's not going to do the sound word, nor is he going to do onset rhyme, but he's going to do blend as you read. Okay, so you will see what blend as you read is. And this one's unfortunately the quietest, so you may need to put your volume up. Look for how he does blend as you read, please. Okay, let's put these sounds together. Okay, what are the first two sounds? Put them together. Put all three together. Nice. Okay, great job. You put this. And that's all there is to the blend as you read approach. Let me just pull up the right slides, and we'll get moving into the next thing. Here we go. So what was the blend did you read? Did you notice? Was the word slap? He had to put slap. It's so maybe it's seemingly insignificant, but just putting the sounds together from the get-go and getting to that vowel and holding the vowel out is essential. And Stephanie says that was great. Right. Isn't it just a simple thing? And so the next thing he would do after reading the word that I wrote, he would then write the word himself. And guess what? He would say the sounds as he's doing it, just like the kids were doing with Switch It, always saying the sounds, connecting phonemes and letters, sounds and symbols. So if the word was slap, he would write s, l, a, p, one sound at a time. Right, Heather? And then absolutely, Carol, great. You've done this for years with struggling readers. Absolutely. They are the ones that need it the most. And for others, it just really accelerates them. And then afterwards, he could erase the word one sound at a time. S, l, a, p. It's another letter sound reinforcement opportunity and phonemic segmentation opportunity. So that's really it for blend as you read. That's the secret sauce. You put the first two sounds together, ba, and you hold that vowel, bus. What's the word? Bus. Yes, Arella says blend, say the letter sounds as you are blending into the others. I'm glad this makes sense to you guys. But if it seems like it's not that big a deal and it's not that different than what you've done before, please don't give up. Give it a try. This is one of those little subtle things that's like a small hinge that swings a big door. Over and over again with countless readers, I have found that this is a huge, not being able to blend quickly is a big block for them becoming successful readers. It impedes them from recognizing words, it impedes them from becoming fluent, it impedes them from having higher level comprehension skills because they're so focused on just trying to put the sounds together. And so give it a try. You'll find it to be quite powerful, I believe. Mary says she likes erase and say the sounds. Cool, thank you. So what do other teachers who have just learned this activity say about Read It and the blend as you read approach? This teacher says she loves using Read It right after Switch It. Yeah, you do the activities back to back. Her firsties like the fast-paced lessons. I give each student a different word to read. So she had a small group. That would be nice, and you wouldn't hear each child would be responsible for their own word. The kids like to race to see who reads their word first, and then she asks the question. That's what I'm there for in the teacher's lounge, to answer her question. Chris says, this is great. Going to try this next week. Debbie says, write the words with their eyes closed. That's interesting. I haven't tried that much. That's right, Linda. Making the sounds and not stopping. It's really getting to that first vowel that's the trick. And then another teacher in our teacher's lounge wrote, this past Friday, I added Read It to my word work during guided reading with all of my first graders. I struggled with the first few groups, but got the hang of it with later groups. I gave each child a different word to work on at their level so they were not using the same word. The exciting thing is that later that day, I was showing one of my little girls that struggles in reading how to find books for independent reading. As she was struggling with words, I encouraged her to use the Read It approach or the blend as you read strategy. And it was wonderful to see this transfer. And then she has a question about multisyllable words. Isn't that also what we want? Switch It can be a game. And then this activity, Read It, is causing the child to transfer to real reading. That's hallelujah. Sherry is definitely going to try this. And so is Tabitha. So keep your questions coming about Read It, and I will be answering them at the end. So far we've been talking about Switch It and Read It, and they work at the short vowel level. A lot of single syllable short vowel words, and they help kids reorient to how the code works, get strong sound symbol processing, get phonemic segmentation, get phonemic manipulation and phonemic blending, as we just saw here in Read It. They learn the letter sounds. All of that is great, right? But unfortunately, our language is a lot more complicated than that. So we've got to handle those nasty long vowels and diphthongs, all that other tricky vowel stuff, which I call advanced phonics. And that is dealt with in the activity Sort It. So are you ready to learn the third activity of the night about Sort It? Natalie says, do you encourage or discourage teaching word families? I discourage it because it doesn't Encourage the child to read left to right. What the child does, if they are looking at that ending chunk, their eye hops from the beginning to the end. And that can work okay with 3-sound words, but when you get into multi-syllable words, the eye hopping around is not what you want to develop in good readers. And you don't need it if you teach them how to blend pretty early on. And great, you guys are awesome, going to try all these things. Okay, Jennifer, yes. But except, I don't know for sure about Rebecca, but we're recommending that you get from the get-go, go read real words, not just teach like B-A and B-A, B-A, B-E, B-I, but read the word bad or read the word bed, for instance. So let's get into the advanced phonics. Here's a breakdown of what I'm talking about when I'm saying basic code and advanced code. So basic is what you saw before: consonants, short vowels, consonant digraphs like the SH, the CH, the CK. But then there's a lot of stuff that's tricky about our language. That's in the advanced code. That's the basic code plus all the other things like the long vowels. The O can be multiple spellings, can't it? So how do you deal with that? You're welcome, Jay and Natalie. Awesome, Wanda Lee. So let's show what sorted is. Now, sorted is kind of an antidote to what a lot of reading programs suggest that we do. A lot of reading programs say do on Monday, and say on Tuesday, and ow on Wednesday, and I on Thursday, etc. In other words, the way we present the code, those tricky advanced phonics sounds, in many programs, not all, but in a majority of them, is random. It's haphazard. It's not organized. And as teachers, you all know that when information is organized, it is so much easier to consume, understand, and memorize, right? If you were teaching phonics, if you were teaching math, you wouldn't teach 2 plus 2 on Monday, and 3 plus 7 on Tuesday, and 5 plus 9 on Wednesday. No, you would teach the 2s together. You would teach the 5s together. Let's count by 5, 10, 15, 20. You do it in some orderly way so that it's easier to understand, make progress on, feel success, and get stuff to stick. So that's what I recommend that you do with your phonics instruction. Organize your information by sound, not by the visual, like not by OW can be ow or it can be O, but organize it first by sound because kids know sounds already. For instance, like this. The O sound, the long O sound, can be the O in boat, the O in slow, the O in note, the O in most, and the O in toe, just to name a few, right? So let me show you what that would look like. This is our sorted page. So you see this is the O sound, and in the dark purple, there are O sound words. These are high frequency words with also high frequency O sound spellings. And the child's job is to do what we did with Read It, practice, blend as you read, but then they also have to add the extra step of sorting it. And when they sort it, then they write it and say the sounds again as they do it. So the word road would be written like this: R, O, D. Got it? So it's connecting sound and symbol, and the O is held the whole time because it is a representation of one sound, even though it's 2 letters. So this is just, this is our sheets for sorted that we use inside the Reading Simplified Academy. But you could do the same thing with your own notebook paper. And so it doesn't have to be this fancy. So notice the kids are sorting by the spelling. And then we also have for each sound a key sentence. This is like a mental hook or mnemonic that we work with all week as we do lots of different O sound activities with sorted being the hub. And so that is just a great way for us all to remember what those key spellings are. The O sound key sentence is go home to show the boat to Joe. So I'm just checking the messages. That's right, Lorraine. Sometimes, yes. There is that in Words Their Way. Sometimes people choose to do more of the visual emphasis. So let's get in here. Let's see an example. So are you following me with what sorted does? It's organized by sound, and it is teaching the key sentence and the mental mnemonic. And of course, they say the sounds that they do it. So throughout all these activities, we're not using letter names. We're using letter sound. We're connecting sounds and symbols. We're always doing phonemic segmentation and blending in almost every activity. So they're developing those skills really quickly. So let's see if we can watch a video. So the example that I'm going to show you is a little boy who is getting his first example of sort it, okay? And he's doing the O sound, reading words, writing them, and saying the sounds.
I have a secret sentence to tell you to help you remember the O spellings. Go home to show the boat to Joe. Okay, here we go. What is he doing?
Sailing.
Yeah, he's going on. He's looking for Joe's house. What's he gonna do? He's gonna go home to
show the boat to Joe.
So we take that key sentence that helps you remember all of these spellings and put it up here. Go home to show the boat to Joe. Then we have all of these spellings. You see them?
Mm-hmm.
And what are all of those spellings? What do all of those spellings have in common?
A-O.
They're all what sound?
O.
Oh, okay. So what you get to do is read a word and then decide where it goes.
Okay, let's go, go, go.
Just read it first. What is it?
Go.
Go. Where does it go?
Boom.
Okay, so in this white space, write go and say the sounds as you do.
G.
No,
Wait. Good.
that's it.
O.
Good, good. Okay, let's try this one.
O. Show.
Mm-hmm. You will show me where it goes. Just focus on show. Which one of these spellings? There you go. Okay, say the sounds as you do it.
O.
Nice. This one? It's all the
Oh,
O. Good.
row.
Good. I like how you figured that out.
Row, row,
Oh,
row,
close.
row.
But you have to read the end. Row.
D. Road.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I totally thought it was like row your boat down.
But this is not row. It is.
Road.
Uh-huh.
Road.
All right. Do you think that some of the haphazard programs could be made more efficient if you were to do this? How does that strike you? Do you like how we're connecting sounds and symbols, and when he says "oh," he's saying "oh" the whole time? So these three things together are super powerful, and let me show you how they are super efficient. And if you have comments about sort it, let me know. What you have here on the screen is one about 4 or 5 pages of standards for kindergarten for the Common Core in literacy. And the purple columns that you see, all those checks are where these 3 activities, switch it, read it, and sort it, address those standards. So many standards are addressed by switch it. In fact, over 19. Many of them are also addressed by read it. Many of them are addressed by sort it. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by having to do an activity for each standard, you can choose these kinds of activities that are integrating multiple subprocesses simultaneously, and you'll get a lot of bang for your buck. A lot of standards are addressed. That's why one of the ways in which we save some time in the classroom. Great. Oh, right, Minta. So you like them, and it's nice to be reminded. Exactly. Sometimes just talking about our practice kind of reinvigorates it, right? Doesn't mean that everything is 100% new. We can still be inspired. So with Sort It, it's kind of the hub for a lot of different activities that you would do. So you would teach the O sound in 1 week, and then the next week move to the E sound, and so on. So in about 12 weeks, you would have covered most of phonics instruction and most of the decoding instruction that kids who are typically developing would have needed. And then they'll be able to move quickly into authentic literature like High Fly Guy or Henry and Mudge, and etc. So great, says Kayla. Awesome. So here is what Joe in the Reading Simplified Academy said about Sort It. She says, Reading Simplified has reinforced how I feel reading should be taught. Sort It is a brilliant activity to expose learners to the different spelling choices of one sound. You're welcome, Kay. And Joe says, it empowers the learners to recognize more phonic patterns, which in turn helps to improve their reading as well as their spelling. I've used Sort It with the younger learners that I work with, as well as the older learners I see. They pick up and remember the phonics spellings a lot quicker than one would expect using this technique. You definitely need to try it. Yes, Mandy says she's going to use Switch It next week with her small groups. Awesome. And that's kind of what I want to get to soon, is to see what you're going to commit to. If there's a tweak here that you've learned tonight, at least one of them, can you try it? Because that will be the most helpful opportunity for you to prove whether or not what I'm saying is actually true. So if you have other questions or comments about Sort It, go ahead and pop it in the chat, and I will get to those. So you've learned those 3 key activities. This is the bulk of what I use and what Reading Simplified teachers use, again, for beginning or struggling readers. It's very powerful along with reading and rereading. The prep, Sheila, is super easy because you just kind of have a long list of Switch It possibilities. You pull Read It words from that, and you just can pick up your Sort It packets if you're a member of the Reading Simplified Academy. If you're not, you can still just kind of create lists of sounds and find books that align with those sounds. And once you've got that compiled, then the prep is pretty easy. So these activities, I've been telling you that they work for me. We've seen how they work for some other teachers, but this isn't just an anecdotal thing. The principles that undergird these activities, you would find as clear evidence in the National Reading Panel Report, which is a U.S. document of multiple reading experts looking at literally thousands of research studies and combining them. And similarly, Preventing Reading Difficulties in Young Children is another document where reading researchers looked across thousands and hundreds of reading research studies and found out key principles. And you will see what they say in there is true of these activities. And not only that, kind of broadly speaking, but specifically speaking, the research intervention that I developed at the University of North Carolina was published in multiple journals. There are 3 of them here on the page. And for instance, the Elementary School Journal, the Journal of Educational Psychology, and Learning Disability Quarterly. And the 3 activities that I just showed you are basically what is in that reading intervention. And in that reading intervention, we got strong effects. For instance, in the Elementary School Journal article, we found effects of 0.4 to 0.7 in all reading measures that we gave. We gave 4 reading measures, and they all were strong, moderate to strong effect sizes for struggling kindergarten through 1st grade readers. And interestingly, guess which reading skill they gained the most? Comprehension. So Elizabeth, yes, I do recommend using it mostly with small groups. Yes, Carol, you can find several of studies with, if you go to Google Scholar with my name, and there will be several studies like this one where these activities are put into action. But if you want the specifics about how certain elements of an activity is based on research, we can get you that information too. Just email me. Yeah, so Lena, I would do the same thing for preschoolers. You just kind of start at an easier level. We have a variation to Switch It called Build It, which is perfect for preschoolers. So let me just tell you some experiences that I've had this last year, because I have the opportunity to tutor kids privately. And these are typical examples. So remember that kindergarten student that we saw in the 5-day challenge? He made so much progress with just the one activity of Switch It. Well, that was in November, and then in January, I started working with him with the whole package, these 3 activities and reading and rereading. Initially, he knew 7 letter sounds. He couldn't segment CVC words. He was struggling. And so I worked with him, and starting in January for about every other week. And on June 6th, tested him, and his word attack was like a 4th grader in the 3rd month. The word attack is his ability to process sounds and symbols, and it's really shows his undergirding reading skills. So all of reading will be built on top of that. His word identification was like a 2nd grader, and his spelling was also like a 2nd grader. So there was that struggling reader that began in November. After these activities, he was well over grade level because of Switch It, Read It, and Sort It, reading and rereading. That was about all that we did. Lisa, I recommend against magnetic letters for Switch It, because when you have like SH or CK, you want that to be a thing, like 1 unit, because it should represent a sound. But you can maybe tape your magnetic letters together to make SH a unit. And then this may be surprising to you. but I do the same thing with any struggling reader who still has some decoding challenges, which I find is most of the student population that I've ever worked with. So this was a 15-year-old who was this past spring just diagnosed with dyslexia. And his non-word reading, that's like that word attack test, was at the first grade 8th month. So he's 15, not even able to function at the second grade level in nonsense word reading. And that's really why he was dyslexic. That's kind of the classic definition. He was also behind in word identification, recognizing real words. And he was also, of course, slow at reading. Yes, Deb, there are some similarities to foundations, but I think that this is a little more streamlined and more efficient because we really don't have a lot of extra stuff, just what you've seen tonight. So with that 15-year-old, I did a lot of switch it. I did mostly with nonsense words, so he'd really be challenged to process sounds, and at like the CCC level. I did read it also initially to help him learn how to blend and also how to blend multi-syllable words. And I did a lot of sort it because he didn't know any phonics. He didn't know short vowels. He didn't certainly know that OA or OW was O. Did a few other things, reading and lots of rereading because after we established his decoding ability. And I just worked with him for 12 hours. After 12 hours using most of what you've seen today, he was not reading the non-words, that nonsense word reading ability, like a 10th grader. So he had been like a first grader in the 8th month. Now he's like a 10th grader. He was like his age because the things that he was lacking, which is why he was identified as dyslexia, was what we zeroed in on. He had the foundation that was cracked, and we just filled that in. And these activities do it super efficiently. His word identification was going up, 9th grade, 2nd month. His passage comprehension blew me away. I was like a college senior, 16th grade, 9th month. Initially, it had been like a 5th grade level. And so I didn't even actually work with comprehension strategies that much, other than when he read afterwards, I would ask him to briefly summarize it. The reason that was such a huge leap was that he unlocked the code and didn't have to use all that mental resources anymore for trying to figure out what the heck words were. He had the brain power and the reasoning and the life experience to do this. So that's very common that we see that comprehension just kind of jumps up. That jumped up a little higher than normal, but it does usually go above grade level because the decoding is often what's the main initial impediment. And he was almost at grade level with his fluency at 140 words per minute. Exactly, Marcia. Wow. And Tabitha says, that is amazing. What happened? Shelley, we did switch it, read it, and sort it. We read, and we did a lot of rereading for fluency. Chris, ask me that question later because I'm not sure I understand it. So that's why I really want you guys to go out there and try these. I've given you the best of the best. I'm so passionate about this because I do think you can save time and your kids can be more successful when you put these into play. That's why Reading Simplified exists. So who is with me? Are you going to just try one of them? Maybe all of them. If they're very different from what you do, that would be too much. But can you commit to this week or starting next week trying Switch It? It's probably the nicest, gentlest way to start. In fact, it is an important way to start. Who is with me? Who's going to try Switch It, you guys? I'd love to hear from you. I'm just waiting because there's always that little lag. Great. Cindy says she's going to use this with her 3 readers she has. Bianca says yes. Jennifer says switch it. Whoop. Yep. Chris. Awesome. Marcia. Marcia. Awesome. Lisa, when school resumes. Tabitha, she's with it. Everybody's going to try. Lots of people are going to try Switch It. And Karen says she's going to start tomorrow. Awesome. Juanita, Cindy, thank you. Debbie, you're welcome. Thank you, Lachelle. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. Priscilla just started, or no, Carol just started Build It and Switch It. Right. I remember we talked about that, right? So I have some questions for you guys to think maybe even beyond what you have learned right now. Would you like to be able to implement the entire streamlined reading system? You've learned the best of the best, but if you were to know how all of this together and have the resources to have the list and to have the sort of pages, would that be helpful to you? Would you take a little load off sometimes if you had all that resources there and the insight about what comes, when? Tony says yes, and Karen says yes. Caroline says yes. Akandria, yes. Bianca, double, triple, quadruple, exclamation point. Kayla says yes. And here's another question for you. To save planning and instructional time. That's like the bane of my existence, or it was when I was a classroom teacher. Madeline says she would love it. Lorraine says yes. Chris and Diane, yes. Minta, yes. Caroline says yes, or Carolyn. Lupe, yes. And probably more importantly, this is what set me on this path to being here for you today, is I did not know how to get all my kids to succeed, but would you like to see every student succeeding in reading? Strategies work with many kids, but these 3 activities, I work with every child I've ever encountered. Yes, some of them take longer, but they move the needle a lot more quickly than the standard practice. And Aurelis, I'm sorry not catching your name quite right, but you're saying, who wouldn't? Yep, says absolutely, says Joan. So I invite you to consider joining the Reading Simplified Academy. This is a community where I guide you in how to put these 3 activities into place in the streamlined system. So what is the Reading Simplified Academy? First and foremost, it is a video course, a professional development video course like you've received tonight, all packaged in an orderly way. It's about 8 to 10 hours of video instruction, so you'll learn Switch It and what to do, when, who needs it, and why. And you get your word lists for Switch It, and then you move to Read It, and you learn about how to give feedback, and you learn the nuances, and you get your word lists, etc. So that's the course. But then we also have the Teacher's Lounge, and I think this is something that's really important to any professional development. I'm really proud that it's there, because when I was a teacher, I had professional development. I went back to my classroom, and then I was on my own. But with the Teacher's Lounge, I'm there every weekday and sometimes on the weekends, and there are other teachers there as well to support you so that you try Switch It, and when you hit something that doesn't line up with what you're expecting, I'm there to help answer your questions. So that's like a reading coach by your side whenever you need it, just for these activities. So you're not having to go it alone. And I love to be there, because all I've been doing for 20 years is working with challenging students. So I've seen it all, or almost all. So the other thing that is in the Reading Simplified Academy are materials. So you don't have to recreate the wheel. So we have hundreds of differentiated materials. We have sets of materials for kids who are kindergarten reading level, another set for those who are first grade reading level, a set of materials for kids who are second and third grade reading level, and a set of materials for those who are reading at the 4th and 5th grade level. I also use those actually with anyone who's older than 5th grade. If they're struggling like my 15-year-old was, then these materials work. So we have the sorted pages, several of them, and then we also have texts that target that sound. So it's all there. You just print it out. You've got your materials for the week for each grade. Oh, thank you, Aurelis. And we also do monthly workshops, just like we're doing tonight, updating you, answering your questions, enriching your experience about how to teach the Reading Simplified or expand beyond that in the field of literacy. Hannah, all the sorted worksheets are part of the Reading Simplified Academy. And that's the only way we have it available right now. And then I feel a little sheepish saying this, but you get that individualized coaching from a literacy expert. That's me. This is all I do, right? I want to help you. And this is not what you typically get in your classroom. And then even if you do have a literacy coach, they're not there right when you need them, every day, or they may have an administrative element that makes you sometimes nervous for being quite as frank as you might be able to be with me. And the nice thing about this approach is that you can take this with you anywhere. You can do it on your iPad, your computer. You can go to the coffee shop. You can watch a 7-minute video in bed as you prep for a new activity the next day. So it's very flexible. Do it on your own time or during planning time, as you can. And this is kind of the hub of the system. This is why it's streamlined. We reduce all of the thinking about literacy development for beginners or strivers to this one page. This is, remember, instead of all those scope and sequences and guidelines and all that stuff, most of it can be condensed to one page. So If I have group number, say a small group is doing step 2, I do step 2. I pull the sorted unit. They are doing step 2 all week. Another group may be doing step 5, and I pull that information, and it's all just very clear to move from 1 to 5 to 12, and then you work more on fluency building, comprehension, and vocabulary, but you've got kids with a strong sound symbol decoding foundation so that when you do the rereading or the comprehension rich strategies, it connects for them. And then it's very adaptable to any curricula. So this is not necessarily throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like I said, there are just 3 activities. Can you see how things that you're already doing can be tweaked and enhanced to be like switch it or to be like sort it? And so it doesn't have to be that you over everything. There is no wait list right now, April, for if you're in this workshop, you have, in a second, you'll have quick access. And like I said, this is an approach that works for beginning or struggling or striving readers of all ages. I've even used it with a functionally illiterate adult. So it's a process that's very streamlined, and once you get it in your head, then you can see where all kids fall much more quickly. It's easier to diagnose what they need and deliver it without so many second guessing of yourself. So if you were to put all the elements that I just talked about that's inside this membership together, if you were to say just to do the video training course, and in the general market, that would be anywhere from $297 to even I've seen upwards of $1,800 just for a video course. Or if you just took the over 700 pages of differentiated materials professionally produced, that would cost probably well over $300. The monthly professional development workshops tailored to your needs, that's again several $100s. Individualized coaching, I've never even heard of that kind of level of support. And it would probably be way too expensive if I or any other literacy coach was to come to your school even once a week, but I'm there 24, well, not 24/7, but every weekday. And then there's that online community of other Reading Simplified teachers trying things out. And so that's a community that you can connect with as well in the Teacher's Lounge. So if you add all that up, the low side be $1,500, maybe even as much as over $8,000. But before the price, I'm going to get to that in a minute, and then I'll get out those freebies that I promised. Your anxiety about teaching kids, would that be helpful? Or if you just had, based on what you've learned tonight, all the materials, how much would that be worth to you? Just the materials, like all the sorted units and all the differentiation levels. Or what about access to a literacy expert and then the community of teachers doing the same thing as you? What's the value that you place on that? And really fundamentally, what is the value of knowing how to teach anyone how to read? I bet we all went into teaching, or we're teaching our little ones because we know it's the most important thing that we can do. And reading is probably the most important thing that we can teach our kids to do. And I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of us have not been provided with easy tools for doing this for everyone, to reaching everyone. So that's what is possible with the Reading Simplified Academy. But we have these economies of scale because we can reach people all over the world in big numbers. So it doesn't have to be $1,500. It doesn't even have to be $9,000. So if you join now, we have a special offer for those people who are in this workshop now for the next 3 days. There's 20% off for people who are here or watching the replay off of the annual subscription. Instead of $247, it's just $197. You can take that annual approach, or you can take the monthly approach. So either way, it's a subscription that you invest in, and you join in, dive in, get what you can. But there's no long-term contract, so you can cancel. Just email us and let us know. So as long as you are a member, you have access to all of these resources and my help. So that, again, is what this membership costs, and it's a lot less than standard programs, right? If I was to go to a workshop, it would cost me more than $197, and not even considering the fact that I would have to maybe travel, and the school would have to pay for the sub. And then when I got back, I'd probably be on my own. I wouldn't have any dialogue, and probably wouldn't have hundreds of pages of resources. So I encourage you to click the button that says join now if you're considering this and jump in there. Like I said, there's no long-term contract, and the annual subscription is a significant reduction. It's over $100 less than the monthly subscription. So if you do join, make sure you check your email inbox for the access. And then there's going to be bonuses too. So those come soon. Let me know if this, yes, Heather, this is US dollars. Jennifer, this is what I recommend for guided reading plus reading a text and rereading the text. Just do these activities, switch it, sort it, and read it. But let me tell you about the bonuses. If you do join, you'll get almost immediate access to go straight into the Reading Simplified Academy membership, start the video introduction, get the big lay of the land, and jump into the teacher's lounge and introduce yourself. But I want you also to know that you guys can get some bonuses. These are pretty big bonuses, again, just for people who are here, because when you are here, you've committed an hour. I know that you're more invested. I know you're going to be more likely than the person who just may catch this approach, at a glance off the internet. You are going to move things forward. I know that ball will roll down the hill faster in a positive way. So I want to encourage you to take action. So our super fast acting bonus, this is just for until the end of the hour. I am going to give away an ebook of this content for tonight, except it's in an ebook format. And it also talks a little bit about a true story of a child who was transformed mostly through these activities. And so you get the details about these activities in the ebook format. You can sit in your bed or while you're taking a bubble bath and read on a Kindle or some sort of ebook device. So that is a fast acting bonus for anyone who joins before the end of the hour. The second fast acting bonus is this game, Snakes and Ladders, which is kind of, you would use it's like Chutes and Ladders. You would use the Chutes and Ladders board game. And we have 7 different levels. So for Sort It with the O sound, you work with guided reading with kids doing that. And then you send them off at centers, and they could do Snakes and Ladders with the O sound if that's their level. Or if another group was on the A sound, they would do the A sound, Snakes and Ladders, and it would be all the different spellings of A. So those are the 2 fast acting bonuses for those who join tonight. But I'm also going to throw in some bonuses for those of you who need to take more time and think about it through the weekend, or the next few days rather. So we have 7 Steal It games. That's a very fun game. It kind of tricks kids into reading more words than they otherwise would. And it's the same in terms of organization as the previous one. There's a set of words for the O sound, a set of words for the E sound, a set of words for the sound. So depending on which group is on which sound, you can give them this activity. And they'll love it. And there's also the video to teach you how to play the game. And then I'm also throwing in 7 Candyland games. The same thing. So you have all these different ways of reinforcing this advanced phonics, getting kids to learn the letter sounds and also learn the high frequency words for those most important sounds. And finally, I'd love to connect with you and talk about your teaching or even watch your teaching. That's what we did at the University of North Carolina to help teachers get better, was we just watched them on webcam or talked with them and shared ideas. So normally this is an additional cost, but we're just throwing it in here as a bonus. 3 calls with me, either on Skype or Zoom or on the phone, whatever works for you. And that is available to you. Those 3 calls are at your convenience within my calendar. As long as you're a member. Elizabeth, yes, we do include decodable readers. And we also recommend that you use what you have as some filler, but there's a lot of material in the Sort It unit packets. That's one of those over 700 pages of materials that I was referring to. Good question. So I'm about to give you your freebies and that certificate and then answer questions. Just as a recap though, what if you join the Reading Simplified Academy, what do you get? All the stuff there on the left, remember in black, the video training course, over 8 hours of instruction like you're receiving tonight. So you really learn these activities and a few others in depth. You get the hundreds of differentiated student pages, so you don't have to go hunting all over the world for resources to do the activities that I recommend. The monthly professional development workshop, so you continue to have access to me and we continue to enrich your understanding of Reading Simplified and just reading in general. individualized coaching in that teacher's lounge so that you don't have to stall out. You can quickly get your answers met. I'm there, like I said, every weekday in the teacher's lounge, just triaging questions, and other teachers there are there as well to give you support and other ideas. And like I said, then there's that online community of Reading Simplified teachers. But if you join in the next 3 days, you get all of that and these bonuses. These are just available for those who are part of this workshop. The 7 Steal It games for teaching advanced phonics sounds, the 7 Candyland games for teaching the same phonics sounds, but then it's just a different game. And then the 3 calls with me at a time that works for both of our schedules. And don't forget, if you join before the end of the hour, you get that ebook, which is the content from tonight expanded upon, and another set of games, Snakes and Ladders. So if you join tonight, in the next hour, you will get basically weeks and weeks of literacy centers for anyone who's at the advanced phonics level. So I encourage you to go ahead and click now, jump right in, give this a try. I'm confident that you will be thrilled with it. So let me also share with you the freebies. In the link now, it should say download file. You should be able to get the PDF for the professional development certificate and some of the free things that I said that I would offer you for being here. So I am super glad that you were here. Katie asked, will the replay video be sent to our emails tonight? I believe definitely tomorrow morning, and you may get one from our Webinar Jam, our host tonight. I'm not sure. Carol, I respectfully disagree. Kindergarten kids get to this level quickly with these activities. I agree that classically they don't do a lot of long vowels in kindergarten, but with these activities, they do. Like that little boy that was in the video, he's not unusual in the experience of Reading Simplified teachers. Of course, not all the time. Everyone gets at that same pace for sure. Some kids take longer, but it does happen that kids learn to read more quickly with this generally. Barbara, we're just talking about those games right now are just for advanced phonics, but I do recommend, I do encourage you to see how when you add in switch it, they figure out the code so quickly, and then the sorted activity helps them understand the advanced code pretty quickly too. And the sight words are actually built into those games. Notice on the words here, these are from the top 300 Fry sight words. So we're picking the O sound spelling patterns, and we're picking high frequency sight words. So that's another way in which we save time. In fact, the sorted pages as well as the games, they also do that. They target high frequency words. All right, let's see what other questions we've got. Kate Smith asked, yes, if you click the button for join now, you can see there is an opportunity to join and learn more. And even if you're not able to do that, and I did encourage everyone to get started straight away with Switch It. Uh-oh, Minta. I mean, hopefully that's not what you are. I hope other people isn't experiencing something tricky like that. Checking my phone. So that's the join now button. Those are the prices that I'm honoring for this workshop. If Minta and other people are finding it similar, then we'll make sure you get the right one. Let's see, who does see the join now button? Should be up there. I'm going to add it again. Maybe it pops up now for you, Minta. Or I'm sorry, who asked that question? Sherry, I'm so glad that you were here. Let me know how Switch It goes if you tried that one. Esther, we do emphasize fluency as part of the lessons almost from the get-go. The materials that we provide that align with Sort It are the materials that we recommend that you use for building fluency. And then we have some other materials that we recommend that you could buy elsewhere once your kids get strong with the sound symbol decoding processes. But most of our kids for a good long while, at least 12 weeks, maybe 24 weeks, are reading these materials that we provide inside the Reading Simplified Academy, and then they're rereading them. So that's how they build up the sight word knowledge and the phonics knowledge. Lisa, the I'm sorry that the freebies are perceived to be for first grade. If you try switch it and sort it, and then jump into rather switch it and read it, you might find that kids learn those short vowels really quickly, and they can do advanced phonics in the second half of kindergarten. Just like that kindergarten boy, he's not unusual. His mother has dyslexia. He had all the predispositions for being dyslexic, but these activities together were enabled him to function in his decoding and read at like a fourth grader. And he was doing all of these sorted activities for most of the second half of his kindergarten year. That's just a case study. I realize that that's just one, but a lot of Reading Simplified teachers are finding that to be the case. But if not, switch it and read it, for those who take longer, are still going to move them along really rapidly and help them learn the short vowels. The title says learning O sound, but the words are not O. Deborah, they are the sound O. I use that O-A because it's almost always the O sound. So I'm meaning the long O sound. And so it's all the O sounds in their various spellings. That's just like we did with the sorted page. Great, Susan, you found the offers. Okay, and it comes up. Carol, thank you. I appreciate that you telling us. She says that the join now is a blue button under the picture on the right, at least on her screen. Now, we all might be slightly different depending on what device, but I appreciate that, Carol. Okay, let's see. Kayla says, thank you for having me and all for the information. I look forward to taking this information to her future classroom. Yes, congratulations on your future career. You're most welcome on the freebies. Do let us know if you can find some kids to try switch it out with. Shelly, if you were able to download the certificate, it should be, the free games are all part of the same file. So just scroll down or up, or maybe if the file did not come down, maybe try to download it again. I'm sorry, Jessica. Terry, yes, we will send you some emails if you need time to think about it. She asked if there will be a link in the emails to join. So yes, for the next a little bit more than 3 days, you're going to have an opportunity to consider this. So you can get these fast acting bonuses. The super fast acting bonuses are only available for the next couple of hours, or the next hour. Those super fast acting bonuses are the Snakes and Ladders games, 7 of those, and then the ebook. But everyone will have the discounted access for the annual subscription for the next 3-ish days. And everyone will also have the opportunities to get those bonuses if they join in the next 3 days. And then our enrollment is for the general public is actually closed right now. The only way in is through these workshops, because it's nice for us to have cohorts of students coming in at the same time. So we will open up the Reading Simplified Academy in the coming months. But for now, this is the great chance for you to get in, take action on what you learned about Switch It, read it, and sort it, and take it to the next steps. So you guys may ask me now anything. Do you have questions about what you learned tonight? If you disagree with something, I'm more than game to talk about it. If you have questions, of course, about Reading Simplified Academy, I'd love to answer those. So Shelly says, got it. Thank you. You're welcome. Chris, the letters for Switch It. Well, we have nice, big packets of letters for Switch It for members of our Reading Simplified Academy. At the different levels, but we also have a sample that you can find on our blog, readingsimplified.com/start-here. So that's like on our first page. You can see a button that says start here, and you can get a lot of freebies for these activities so that you can give them a try. Deborah, tell me more about what you mean about it being confusing, because I might have lost your earlier thread. I'm sorry. What's confusing to students? Barbara says, right, is the monthly price always $29? Yes, if you join monthly, every month is $29 until you cancel. Carol says it was really intriguing. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm glad you were here. I appreciate you saying that. You're welcome, Esther. Chris, this has been great. Thank you so much. I'm going to do these next week. Yay! That gives me so much pleasure. I'm very confident that these will make a difference, and I want teachers to not have to work so hard, and I want kids to find easier success. So I love that you are willing to try that. Jennifer says she's about to join. It states that I only get 1/3 of the materials. Oh, we changed that, Jennifer. I'm sorry I made a mistake on that. That was something that was tested, and we decided to do away with that. So you get all the materials if you are a member, a monthly member, or an annual member. Yes, Carol, I understand that. Ugh, you've got a lot to got going there, Carol. I'm sorry about your broken ankle. That's too much. Sharonda says she doesn't have the join button. Shelly, the freebies are intended for anyone who's reading at the kindergarten through 2nd grade reading level. And Lisa, okay, I see what you're saying, Lisa. Hopefully we've gotten it cleared up there now. Let's see, are there other questions? Susan asked, do you have a list of books that go with the sounds? For example, I looked at the Starfell books on the lesson plan sheet. Exactly. So that lesson plan sheet, that was something that I was giving away for free for the general public. So I didn't assume that they would have access to what's in the Reading Simplified Academy. But if you're in the Reading Simplified Academy, you have, for each sound, you have multiple passages. And then also I do have a book list of places to look for additional resources, many of which are free or are really inexpensive. Okay, Katie asked for a quick explanation of Read It, and that's one of my favorites. It's so powerful. I'd love to do that. So it's very simple. First you write a word on the board. Looking for a marker. Excuse me for a second. Well, hopefully let's see what a highlighter can do. I should have had a dry erase marker at my fingertip. So you write a word. Say the student's having trouble blending, so you're going to start with 3 sound words. And you're going to start with a word that starts with a continuant consonant where you can stretch out the first sound. And I know that's not very good, but that says mop. So the teacher writes the word, and then this teacher asks the student to say the first 2 sounds and put them together. Okay. What are the first 2 sounds? Now put them together, and you cover up the end of the word. If it's a longer word, you'd cover up all but the first 2 sounds. So you'd ask the student to put ma and hold the vowel. Ma. What's that word? Mop. Usually if they can get the first 2 sounds together, then it's easy for them to add sounds after that. So that's the blend as you read. So instead of doing what's the word? You just from the very beginning ask them to put the first 2 sounds together. And if the word was shop, you would cover up the P also, but you would reveal the SH and the O because those are 2 sounds. Sh, ah. So that's the first step. They read the word. The second step of Read It is that then the student writes the word. So the student would write the word and say it. Again, I'm sorry, this is terrible. You can't see it. But then the student would then end by erasing and saying the sounds. In fact, the teacher can erase her word and the student can erase her word. So that is Read It. And you just increase the phonemic difficulty as quickly as you can so they can build more and more potential blending ability. So you do CVC and then CVCC words like held, and then CCVC words like stop, and then 5 sound words. So that's Read It in a nutshell. Deborah says, do the students see the pattern O and you don't have the O spelling? It seems confusing. Okay, so, at the top of the sorted sheet, Deborah, it does say that O. I haven't run across that being a confusing thing to students because I'm saying this is the sound O and these are the symbols, but you can also just, cover that up and just put long O if you prefer that label, if I'm understanding you correctly. Bev, if you can click this link, you should be able to get into this webinar elsewhere if you followed the same email and printed out with a different computer. Sydney, thank you for saying that. Oh my goodness, Lorraine, that's a very interesting thing. And admin told us that if the students don't have phonics by 4th grade to stop teaching it. I understand where they're coming from because it seems like the techniques that they're trying aren't working. But so I would say if you tried a new technique that has proven to be efficacious, then then there's a good reason to teach it, because kids do need a strong sound symbol foundation. And phonics is one part of that. It's not the only part, because the other big part is that phonemic awareness, or that phonemic processing part. But researchers have shown over and over and over again, kind of in an overwhelming way, that good readers have super strong sound symbol processing, they have super strong phonemic awareness, and that's the foundation on which they build everything above it that makes reading so easy for them. And so we're crippling kids when we don't give that to them. And you can solve the problem rather quickly. Remember that 15-year-old student? He's not that unusual. He got to grade level in his ability to have sound symbol processing after 12 hours of instruction, because he got switch it, read it, and sort it, and rereading and reading. But mostly it was these word work activities that made the difference for him. So I hope that maybe your administrator would consider alternatives when presented with some more efficient techniques. Heather's planning a summer camp. She's a speech and language pathologist. So yes, that'll be great. We'd love to have you join us. Akendria says she's going to be joining soon. Great. Katie, hopefully I explained read it. Lorraine, yeah, I know what you mean. Where can you get the letter sound cards that have the blends? I would call those not blends. I would call those the digraphs, because a blend is actually two sounds like B and L. That would be two different cards. So we provide that inside the Reading Simplified Academy. Is there research for this other than you? There is the, first of all, I am not the main author of those studies. So I'm just the one that developed the program. So there's a lot of different authors that have been doing the research on that program that I created. But also, I could send you a research basis of the principles that undergird this, and that has a very deep, a deep well of research. So, for instance, like the National Reading Panel report, trying to get to that. Maybe this is a very inefficient way to do it. The National Reading Panel report, the Preventing Reading Difficulties for Young Children, those say some critical things. For instance, that phonics instruction connected with phonemic awareness is more effective than either by themselves. They say things like guided oral reading, giving kids help to attack unknown words is more helpful than not. And that's one of the key principles that we teach in the Reading Simplified Academy. They talk about the importance of rereading for fluency. So that's just and this is just one screen, because don't want to overwhelm people with research. But like I said, there are multiple studies where the program that I created that is similar to the switch it, read it, and sort it model have been done by multiple researchers in multiple states with multiple different and multiple research time periods. But then there's also the undergirding principles, which you'd find in documents like the National Reading Panel, Preventing Reading Difficulties in Young Children. And if you want more information, I have a short list of resources that back up the undergirding principles for these activities. So that's a good question. You're welcome, Katie. Marnie asked, do you do all three activities each day? Good question. After you introduce Read It and the kids get good at the blend as you read approach, you usually drop Read It and replace it with Sort It. So oftentimes a lesson will include Switch It and Sort It for a good long while. Maybe initially it's just Switch It and Read It till they get the hang of the short vowels. So a lot of times for word work, you're choosing just two of these activities. And when you look at across several weeks, these activities are the ones that you pull from. And then when the kids get to the multi-syllable level, you add in Read It with multi-syllable words again. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, if you caught that, these three activities are the word work component, but we also read new text every day and practice rereading it enough times so that they can master it and read it fairly fluently the next day. So there's reading of new text and rereading of old text that kind of balances out a good lesson. But these are the main activities that you use, and you choose typically 2, sometimes 3, depending on where you are. When you get started, it takes a little longer. When they're really pro, you might be able to do these 2 and another one called Write It, which is probably makes sense from what you have seen. Okay, you guys have been awesome. Who's ready to do Switch It tomorrow or the next school day that you go? I am really excited for you to see what happens. Let me know on email or messenger. And of course, if you jump into the Reading Simplified Academy, I'll be talking with you in the Teacher's Lounge. Yeah, I'll just go back to this. My main hope is that I can continue to offer you even more support and you have the resources at your fingertips. But if it's not the time, then still try one of these activities. These are really powerful. You can put me to the test and then come back when you're ready. But I bet there's very low risk in joining. There's no long-term contract. So you can, take the bull by their horns and jump in, get the help you need, and see if your kids are going to fly faster than you thought possible, and also if guided reading or planning could be easier, because that's my agenda to help you. Okay, that's interesting, Deborah. Let's email about that. They don't go into depth about the nuances of blending, but I know there are some resources, some citations I have for why that is helpful. And then also I just find it to be always efficacious after 2 decades of teaching almost exclusively struggling readers. But yeah, every single choice does not have a research backing, and anyone who claims that every single move does have a research backing is not telling the truth, because it's really impossible to study everything and prove it down to the nitty-gritty. But Deborah, when teachers were using that activity, their struggling readers did far better than kids that weren't doing that activity. Lalina, you're welcome. I'm so glad that you're thanking us. Oh, I'm glad it was clear. Oh, it was your day off. That's very gracious that you found this beneficial. You're most welcome. Well, I look forward to seeing you inside the Reading Simplified Academy. I look forward to hearing your success, maybe in my email, or maybe you just track with me in readingsimplified.com or on our Facebook page so you can continue to learn more. Test these out, see if what I'm saying is true, and blessings on your teaching. Thank you for serving, and thanks for being here. It's a big commitment, and I'm really grateful for your time. All right, signing off. Good night.